I wouldn't like to be insultive to anybody. Presidency is not the problem of the Southeast for now. Absolutely not. What we did in Anambra State was to emphasize on where our people are coming from, reference the problems surrounding us. In Igbos have a saying, if you have many enemies surrounding you, you can't sleep. You have to sleep with your two eyes open. And it does appear that our leaders are sleeping with their two eyes closed when everywhere we are surrounded with enemies. I think we have more internal enemies. Those are called, quintessential opportunists in the grab of
Political
governors or senators. Because when you remove one or two governors and Senator Baribe and 2 or 3 others, the others are doing business. Look at how disorganized the Southeast is today. We completely dominated with the military. Nnamdi Kanu is under detention. That war is on one side going on. Justice Mary Odili is being humiliated on one side. Not one person from the Southeast, and I repeat, not one person, to the best of my knowledge, in leadership. Unlike what is happening with Rivers governor, making a broadcast, coming to Abuja to meet the IG with leaders of thought of Rivers State about a wife. How about, she's our daughter. And the governor of Imo State had not found it necessary to make a comment on what is happening. And they are looking for presidency for which country? Is it a country called Biafra or whatever? There's no such place. Who have built bridges? You know, I will tell you one thing before we go on. In 24, is it 2000, when was Shagari overthrown?
1983. December 31st.
Something is confusing me now. 2000
1983, December 31st.
December he was overthrown. Now, 2-3 months down the line, his 2 sons, either 1 or 2, died in a ghastly motor accident. And I had the privilege of going to Shagari village with now late Dr. Chuba Kadibo. We spent about an hour with him at lunch. So when he was seeing us up, we had entered the vehicle to leave. And he called Chuba and called me out. And said, do you know why I lost my presidency? I looked at him. I said, Your Excellency, you know, I got close to him because I was very close to Maridiko. I said, I've had the discussion with you once, even before the coup came up. He said, why do I think I lost my presidency? Because they want to stop Professor Dr. Kwame from succeeding you. So to do that, they had to stop a Fulani man. But those who planned that coup didn't have any northern integrity as would appear. Though they had to remove a Fulani and brought in another Fulani to replace him. It wasn't Buhari who planned the coup. He wasn't part of it. It was just an instrument to certify the northern Fulani. That is one thing. Secondly, because of what is happening now in the country, and especially in the north, 1979, we were all in PRP, a lot of us. And Malam Aminu kind of visited the east. This is very important. So as we were leaving, later SG Koko asked him a question resulting from the Civil War. He said, no, the Igbos, in fact, the South, have no capacity for revolution. But whenever we see crisis, violent crisis develop in the North, and it's not managed, that is the beginning of the end of this country. And that is what I'm saying. There's serious crisis now running over into years, and nobody appears to be managing it. The North remains docile, as if nothing is going on. Look at the system breaking down. This is where there used to be order. You know, they say, you know, back when they follow, but they don't follow anymore. The symbol of order you now see is revolving around Buhari. If Buhari leaves office tomorrow, it will be tragic for this country if he doesn't fix it. And you can't fix it with hate. There's so much hate in the land that they don't appear to be addressing that. So if anybody in the Southeast is just jumping up, it's not only Pius Anyim who has declared, he's declared, one Ohabunga, the pharmacist, has also declared. On what bridge building? On what bridge building across the country are you declaring? Or is it because you've seen about 10 billion in your account and the best thing to do is to waste it? I told you this when there was a primary in Anambra State. Most of those who came out and wasted over 2 billion haven't built a road in their community. Not one road, not a borehole. And they tell you here what they have done.
But
what have they done?
Let me come in here because ex-governor of Anambra State, Chukwemeka Ife, it seems and begs to differ, because he says for the Southeast, he thinks that it should be a politics of building bridges and making compromises. And he feels that, that the Southeast is ready to beg, ready to kneel in order to be able to clinch presidency in 2023. And that was what is going to offset the social injustice and the marginalization in the Southeast.
I would have loved you to ask him, do you start building bridges a year to the election? Because you are not running for local government chairman or a state governorship. You are running for the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with so many multi-ethnic divisions and hatred. I will tell you there are probably about 2 or 3 individuals who have the capacity, as of today, building bridges. And in that level, you look at the Enugu governor, the Rivers governor, the Delta governor. I will include the Akwa Ibom governor. These are people that have undiluted humility. You need a level of undiluted humility for people in other areas to begin to appreciate you, because there's already hatred against us. And if the arrogance is because...
Do you think that hatred is justified?
But it depends on who is hating. I mean, I was listening to the argument about banning Nigeria from going to London. What are they doing in London? If you have a leadership that is transparent and honest, because these governments know that all our money stolen are in their pockets in London, so they won't have opened their mouth to say what you're saying or what I'm saying. When they know that your president will jump into the plane to come into London, his life is dependent on their hospitals. Is that leadership? There has to be a leadership that will stand up for the people, and we don't have it yet. So you see that it's even good that they banned everybody from going there. Why are they? I'm grandmother in that place. When there's no water running here, no light, and every time everybody runs to London, New York, California, and you can see the arrogance of going to California. Why don't you go to Yankari? Why don't you go to Cross River? There's so much depletion in that attitude of Nigeria. All they know is once election comes up, everybody, the money that has been stolen is brought out because they want to maximize the one they have stolen already. And everybody keeps quiet. That is the crisis in Nigeria. Nobody has addressed the implicit problem. Just a second.
Yeah.
The general, when he was coming, they told us, Major General, he will work magic. And he stayed. I don't know when last, if he stayed Daura. His governor is shouting. Niger State is taking over. Everywhere is being taken over. And then he's going from Dubai to Scotland. What would foreign leaders be looking at, talking to him when his country is burning? In a normal society, he shouldn't leave this country. He should be sitting down 24 hours, discussing with security agents, what do we do to change the narrative? Calling all the governors, what do we do to change the narrative in your place? Not hatred, not dominating a place. If there's a problem with Nnamdi Kanu, can we talk with this young boy? What is wrong with him? What is it that has informed him to make certain comments that to them is unrealistic? Because Biafra means justice. It talks about justice, the injustice being preferred against the people. That's what the boy represents. He may not like his methodology, but that is what he represents, and they are not prepared to discuss it. They are not even prepared to discuss what is this bandits they just recently named terrorists after their hands were virtually forced. Where are they coming from? Are they Nigerians? Can we talk to them? That all crisis, all forms of agitation is a catalyst for dialogue. And this country appears, the governance in this country appears not to understand that. That when people protest, all they are asking you, can we sit down and talk? And there's no peace as as beautiful as there's no war as more important than peace. War. It doesn't lead you to anywhere, because when Buhari leaves tomorrow, this same situation could get worse. He is a symbol of northern unity and part of Nigerian unity. People still love him, no matter what you say. But if he exists, it will be tragic, and this is why I've been shouting that he should sit down and talk to all component parts agitating, whether they are Boko Haram, whether they are bandits, whether they are IPOD. You have to talk to them. They are Nigerians. We must sit down and talk to them and see where we're coming from.
But then there have also been leading talks. Some of the Southeast leaders who visited, the president in the company of some of the members of his cabinet who are from the Southeast reassuring, of course, of peace and stability if, Nnamdi Kanu was released to the elder statesman who was in charge of that delegation. But till now, we have seen, some back and forth conversation on the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Some people say that perhaps if that were to be done, there could be some sort of consensus in some of the issues that are being tabled, and then there would be a holistic approach to that demand. I don't know if you think that is also not part of considerable conversations ongoing.
All we have had in the past 1-2 months, distinguished Mbadlika Amechi, the boy is good, he's been here at 93. That is significant. But talk without pressure. This government can be pressured to act. If the 5 governors of the Southeast join with the 6 governors of the South and make a demand, consistent demand, this government will listen. But the government knows that they can split the portfolio, the governorship portfolio. They know what they can do. The substance that you hear a Boeing governor is in APC, is interested in presidency. People want to use him. He won't open his mouth. The one in Imo is put in there with the Supreme Court, and there is a war going on there. You don't expect him to open his mouth. So there's problem in leadership in the Southeast. There's also a little problem in the South now with what's the one in Cross River? There's a problem there with him. So there are 5 governors in the South that are prepared to defend the interests of their people. Because the question is, were you voted to defend the interests of your people? That is primary, not the interest of somebody in Abuja. Absolutely not.
But then they would argue with you that political interest as well and sustainability of the power that put them in place is also considerable. And when you look at that,
information,
and when
those power did not put them in, the people voted for them.
Well,
if they are appointees, that's a different thing. If you're a minister, the president can wake up and won't like your face anymore and will remove you. He won't remove a governor. He won't remove a senator. These are our leaders who will sit down and look at our problems and have the courage. Do you know if they start demonstration here for 1 week, just 1 week, all legislators from the Southeast, governors from the Southeast, telling this president they will go and block the villa. You must discuss the problems we have in the Southeast.
But are the governors in the Southeast even harmonized in their course for the Southeast as a bloc? Or are they selfish in their aggravation?
You've just come back to how I started. Because each time I mention a particular governor, it will look as if there is anything. I don't have any relationship with him. But there's one governor that has, and I use that phraseology, undiluted humility and loyalty to his people. And that's the governor of Enugu State. To some extent with that of Abia State. He can go to any extent to protect the interests of his people. If the other 4 were 10% as motivated as he is, our problems, he won't solve it overnight. But we'll start making an attempt for people to listen to us honestly. Not when I'm talking, Adora is saying something, I said, don't worry, Adora was there last night. These people are not serious. That is how they look at us.
All right, Chief. Let's go back to that conversation of Southeast is not interested in the presidency. The agitation coming from the Southeast, which has eventually led to Nnamdi Kanu in detention right now, has its origins from marginalization, of lack of representation, of not being treated as Nigerians, of not being recognized at the national level. Is that not something that a Southeast presidency would address?
Well, let me make a clear distinction. I didn't say we're not interested or we don't like the presidency, but I say it's not our priority. Okay. You have to have a home. My people said if you don't have a land, you won't have any place to put mat on top. You have to have a land to put mat on it and sleep on it. So that is why I made an analysis of all the problems we have. And we have started solving them by putting a human being at Oka. Between now and 2023, we will try to put 4 other human beings. There's 1 human being in Enugu. Unfortunately, he's leaving. He's completing his 2nd term. We'll put 4 new human beings in the 4 government houses in the Southeast that we can trace their phenotypic and genotypic consideration. We know where they are coming from. They don't need to be Okpara's son. They have to be children of that their mother was treasurer of a local church and they eat the money of the church. Their father was something and did not do this. This is the kind of reference we want to see. They will go with that honor of where they are coming from. If we're able to do that in the Southeast and bring representatives who will honorably come to Abuja to know that their people are handicapped and they are going to represent us honestly, voicing out our problems, you don't need to fight federal government. Mandela did not fight anybody to achieve what he did after 27 years. Now, how many years have we gone? And it does appear that the problem in the South is becoming a pandemic. I mean, is it fair? But if along the line, I don't even know how this presidency is going to run out. Because people saying it, PDP has zoned office portfolio to the north. Nobody knows where the presidency is going to be zoned. Because the two parties are distinct. APC may likely send their own to the south. But would PDP send their own to the south? If the last president of PDP was from the south, do you think this PDP will zone their own to the south? That's a problem. Because if we are an organized country that want to sustain stability, we would have made sure that the two major parties have the same style of zoning. You know,
but the dynamics are different.
They are different because they are not thinking about the survival of this country. Because we are talking of democracy without being qualified to democratize. Democracy requires a lot of knowledge, education, communication. We don't have it. We are still in a local villages where, you know, Omar, you go to the village, you say, this is what the Shifola said. He hates our people. And 90% of the people will buy it. Nobody goes on television. Even if they go, there might be no light for them to know what we are now discussing. Most people don't understand what is going on. That is the level where we are. And we want to be white people overnight. You cannot be a white man overnight. They have done this for over 200 years and still making serious mistakes. Very serious mistakes. How about all that are so hungry? If you know how hungry people are, then you begin to appreciate why lots of compromises are needed. This government must sit down to decide, especially for the president, what is going to be his legacy? Is it crisis, war, all over the country? Nigeria has never seen this before. I mean, it's only South now that there's a little, some form of calm, and some parts of the Southwest. The Southeast is in trouble. The whole of the North is in trouble. That is not a good, narrative for anybody to repeat. So that's why I continue to say this presidency. Those who have been there, my friend Goodluck Jonathan was there for 6 years. And I said, couldn't build a road from Port Harcourt to Yenagoa.
But some would also argue that his presence in the presidency brought some high level of stability in terms of peace into the Niger Delta region where he comes from. Hitherto, what happened before then?
Well, it wasn't his president that did. It was Yaradua. You just had a good man from Castina.
Yeah, he did it, but Jonathan's administration sustained it.
Let us give credit to where it belongs.
Absolutely. Not taking away credit from Yaradua, who initiated the amnesty program. Yes.
Nothing would have happened. Because I want to see that Southern leader who will have the courage of somebody like Mwike. There are not many of them. Not many of them. They stay in that office and you think they're going to do anything. They won't do anything. They will read the file 10 times over and leave it. Tell you of ethnic problem. If I do this, Hausas will say, the Igbos will say, this will say. This is again where I give credit to this president. He takes decisions that, profits his people. It's negative, but he takes decisions. Leadership is the ability to take decisions, whether good or bad.
However negative?
No, most of the decisions he has taken favors only his people. That's why people are complaining. If he has looked at the Southeast as part of this country and sits down to talk with them, how do we change the narrative in the Southeast? You don't look at us. We are not enemies. We ended the Civil War 50 years ago, and he appears to be still fighting the Civil War. That's unfortunate.
Chief Ulase, why do you think that the fallout of the Civil War seems to still be the Achilles heel for the Southeast, especially when they come out to say, we deserve this, we deserve that at the national level?
Well, when I said there's some level of hatred floating around, the Igbo man has some privileges God has given him. They are knowledgeable, they are hardworking, they have made money too, and helped other parts of this country to also make money. People should realize that. We have made developments across this country. Somebody who hates the other person. My father was in Kano by 1937. He was already in Kano. 12 or more years before I was born. He was already there. So many top Igbos were there. You couldn't tell me one major northerner or anywhere who was in the south, anywhere, by that time. But they were there, buying land, selling something, building something, marrying natives. If you come to my village, the next compound to me, my late uncle married a Fulani woman, and they have beautiful children. In fact, our people, if you want to see beautiful women, before they all got married, you just come to the front of their house and see beautiful women. And we're happy that they are our sisters, you know. How many Northerners then were able to marry Igbos? So the Southeast started this patriotism of Nigerianization very early, when others didn't see it. And it developed into hatred. They thought it was domination. But how can somebody dominate you? He comes to your place, buys a land, builds a house, to tell you that it is possible for you to do the same. But others sell a land, use it to marry more wives. Is that development? Now today, some of them who are actively attached to Muslim religion have 4 wives, 20-something children. How are you going to maintain on 30,000 if you are a civil servant? But the Saudi Arabia, that is the home of Muslim religion, 90% of them marry only 1 wife. Even if they marry 2, the government sometimes subsidizes their marriage, as it were, for them to be able to survive.
Okay, I think the question I think Uti asked is very important for us to look at, in terms of, you know, the aftermath, you know, the leftovers and the influence of what was the experience during the Civil War now in the hearts of many people from the South. Is there still a sense? Because you said, yes, there seems to be skirmishes of hatred everywhere. But then that emotion attached to that, you know, that tragedy for some people is still there in their hearts. And again, like you said, because of nepotism and the way the government has handled their appointments and people, you know, establishing its own people, some people will say, yes, there seems to be a sense of marginalization. Again, we remember what the president, you know, quoted that made Twitter, you know, gets suspended in Nigeria. So many of those misbehaving today are too young to be aware of the destruction of long ago that occurred during the Nigerian Civil War. So those of us in the field will teach them in the language that they deserve. And I'm sure so many people haven't forgotten that. But going forward, what is the way forward? Because again, we cannot have a country without unity. And I think that you're on the side of unity, or perhaps not.
Yes. You know, what you have just said, again, summarizes all I have been saying. You cannot have unity without love. Love is fundamental in anything. If I don't like you, I won't see why I should trust you. I won't see why I should, you know, give you some secrets that might affect my life. And it does appear to be what this government is pushing, that the attitude is no more body language. The attitude of the presidency does indicate that there are parts of this country they don't like. When you see herdsmen go about killing people, and you see one called Garba Shehu defending the killing of innocent Nigerians in their thousands, then you have to ask some questions. Look at Benue Plateau. That range is all a war front. People are killed every day in their hundreds. If we have good statistics, you will shudder the number of people dying in this country. Now, coming back to what you said, a lot of young people didn't know why we fought the Civil War. They never knew. Those who are now enjoying under Decree 34 erroneously put in place, erroneously, unfortunately, and they killed him. Then he was a criminal. Why should everybody come together? But today, they are running this country. Erroneously is a superstar. They now realize what he did for them, foolishly. So what I'm saying is that those of us who saw the Civil War and knew why it was fought, has anything changed? Nothing has changed. Now, the other parts of the country, the other component parts, even in the north, are now seeing what the Igbos saw more than 50 years ago. But one thing is important. Do you remember that I had said this on this platform? Just about 2 years or so, or a year before Ojukwu died, this president, as a civilian, invited him to Daura. And Ojukwu called an emergency meeting of his little clique, and I had the privilege to be in there. Everybody opposed is going to Daura. Everybody. And I got up and said, my people have a saying that, you know, excreta cannot smell in the stomach. It has to come out before it smells. If somebody is inviting you to come, go. Discuss with him. He was a general. Go and discuss with him. And Ojukwu, typical of him, my dear Dan, I will take your advice and I will go. Unfortunately, apart from his wife, virtually everybody who was involved in that discussion is late now. So he left, spent 2 days with now President Buhari in Daura. They had comprehensive discussion, very comprehensive discussion that would have catapulted this country to a new height. Had agreements on what to do to rehabilitate the East. He told him, but you could tell him that the requirements of the Igbo man is not much. They don't need government to survive. You know, it's just remove some elements of, you know, hate, inequality, appointments that you do,
social
or
injustice.
the North has been doing. That's all. They don't need requirements. And they agreed. Not long after that, Ojukwu died. And on this platform, I asked Buhari, have you implemented 1 out of 5 major things you agree with Ojukwu? Not one. So it comes to tell you that there's some form of hatred hiding somewhere. And if you don't remove that hatred, it's difficult to talk of national unity.
How do you remove that hatred, Chief? Because, I mean,
it's leadership.
Reaction have been coming in since Chief Ezefe made that statement that if it requires kneeling to beg, they're ready to kneel to beg. A coalition of northern groups came out and said, look, the Igbos have, quoting him directly, that's Abdulaziz Suleiman, says, Igbos have, by their conduct, denied themselves the opportunity to be trusted with power in the near future. And he says it is deceptive for them to make such overtures after having encouraged and supported Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the outlawed indigenous people of Biafra, and the atrocities committed against other Nigerians, particularly by northerners by his IPOB.
So you can see how selfish and naive whomsoever he is. I don't know whom he is. Tell me, comparatively speaking, what has iPod done that is anywhere 5% of what Boko Haram and bandits are doing in the North? Has iPod ever operated in the North? You know, they just use English language without understanding what they are writing about. Apart from occasional stops and gyration in the Southeast, has iPod gone beyond the Southeast to harass anybody? So look at these our...
There was a recent video, I don't know if you saw it, Chief,
on
of certain persons who, you know, the video was quite graphic, so it's even very difficult to describe it here.
In what respect? Video about what?
Video about, you know, a dehumanizing situation where they beheaded somebody.
Yes, yes.
And mentioned the names of the person. Saw the video?
Yes,
and the identities of the persons suggest that they were from the North.
Well, I didn't know about that one. I didn't know about that one. You know, I hate killing in any form of any group. And I say it even in the local, you know, radio stations in the East. I hate killing of any kind. But you have to remove the instrument that leads to such arbitrary actions. Because people, you know, when Boko Haram was operating in the North, a lot more serious. Do you remember buses were burnt in Kano, and these were Igbos dying? 90% of those buses, passengers in them were Igbos, and their bodies were being brought back to the East.
So your point is, it is not the Igbos that are doing this.
You know, remember during the election, I told you that the violence you see in the Southeast was imported. Apart from this incident you just mentioned, since the election ended, have you heard of any violence anywhere in Southeast? You haven't. People deliberately use our people to destroy us. This is why I was telling you when people are telling me about presidency. If an Igbo man who is an Igbo man comes out and says he wants to run for president, I have nothing against that. But if it is an imported Northern president to act on behalf of us, then he's not an Igbo president. He's not coming from the Southeast. It will be better we don't have a president and make time to organize our place.
But would that not be as a result of negotiation and engagement with other parts of the country?
Again, I said when I started, I talked about bridge building.
Yes.
It takes time to build bridge. You don't build it overnight. And I said 1 year to an election, somebody jumps out.
Let me mention the name of one person who has been apparently building bridges.
Yes.
Senator Ken Namani, former Senate President.
Well, he's I don't like talking about my very, very personal. Yesterday, I spoke with him. Yesterday.
Is he a bridge builder?
He's a builder.
And he qualifies?
Very qualified. But unfortunately, I told him, if he comes out to run for election, if he would have had 80%, he would have 30% now because he's in APC. Because most Igbos regard APC, unfortunately, as their enemy.
Anti-Igbo.
Unfortunately, which is not supposed to be.
So does it mean that the Southeast now is a victim of what it is itself accusing other people of?
No,
because,
in what sense?
Because on the other hand, you have said that, people are unfairly, stereotyping the Southeast because of the fallout of the Civil War.
Yes.
And right now, you're also saying that for the Igbos, as far as the Igbos are concerned, the APC is perceived as a pariah, as a political party.
The summary of what I have said is that if you have a problem, 25th anniversary, and there's danger there, all you can do is to avoid going there. The summary of what I'm saying is that our priority is not presidency. Our priority is to achieve the aspirations of our people, pushing them to higher heights. We can make the 5 states a mini Korea, a mini Japan. Others will come. Let them hold the presidency. The North have held power for 52 years. They still remain the poorest, the most uneducated. So what is it about presidency? Nobody should excite me about presidency. I should be excited that if I go to Daura, that water is running, and it is not running.
Okay,
I should be excited that if I go to Maiduguri, that water is running. That was where I was born. I was to be excited. I mean, I was born in Kano, and my parents moved to Maiduguri. I should be excited that water runs there. It doesn't run. So what should I be excited about presidency? I shouldn't.
There's just a few years, calendar months to the 2023 election. And we all know that the 2023 general elections for Nigeria will be a watershed in the history of Nigeria's election. And I say this because you talked about aspirations of the people of the Southeast should be the first bone of contention and not the presidency. But then again, like Ezefe said, he said, when the right you have is not legal, the only approach and the instrument you have is persuasion with a thought in mind. And so what are you going to use to negotiate? How are you negotiating? Especially to put the Southeast in the front burner of the conversation to achieve the aspiration of the people of the Southeast.
Thank you for saying this. But if you put in context of what you have just said with what Omore just read, what Suleiman just said, you can say that they don't put us in a factor. They are not interested about thinking of even somebody from the South is being the president. These are the people talking for the North. So if this is why I make my argument, if we can rebuild the Southeast and it becomes a beautiful place, then probably the other part of the country will say, oh, there's something exceptional about the Igbos. Why don't we come and ask them to come to the center and help? We don't need to force ourselves into it because we know they will not give it to us. Why waste your money? That money would have wasted. You could use it to give water in your village, build roads in your village, so that they have something to be jealous about. Not bringing 2 billion and going to distribute it to goddamn everybody in the North and the West everywhere, hoping that we are going to win. Now, all those that made argument with me about Anambra election, where are they today? They all called me, said they were sorry. I said, you cannot win. The factors are not on the ground for you to win. So Igbos, you cannot win. The factors are not on the ground. We can win only when they realize there are people, I don't want to mention their name because time is coming, who are building bridges, who are humble, who are hardworking, and the most part of the North appreciate them. So now when the problem magnifies itself, the Nigerian problem will magnify itself, they will look for the East. They will come to sit down for leadership because the system is collapsing.
All right.
So we are not going to force ourselves into it. This country must recognize meritocracy. They must recognize hard work. The presidency is not about I'm from Newe, I'm from Castina. No, it's about running the affairs of this country so that we can lift our citizens to a level of hope.
I mean, it's interesting that we see all this articulation by you here on live TV. I mean, it's a clarion call for the Southeast and even for Nigerians in leadership. But backstage, beyond all the conversations we have here, how are you also having these conversations, with leaders of the Southeast to be able to bring them to?
Oh, you can every night. There's nothing else we talk about than that. And you have to also accept our shortcomings. The South is not like the West or the North, where people do Rankade and Dobale. In a family of 7, the same mother, you start a meeting, 5 hours, you haven't finished it. Because everybody must have to have an emphasis on what he believes in. So it takes time to articulate opinions and project it the concept of immaculate conception is not only that it will be immaculate, it has to be immaculate in its implement, the concept itself and its execution.